Good morning, Cassie Brown.
Good morning, Rhonda.
How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. We're rolling into another fun episode talking about some of my favorite things. And you want me to go right into the introduction, or you want to say anything?
No, you're amazing at introductions and wrapping things up. So,
Okay. All right, let's do this. Today, we are talking about how to create sustainable habits. We're talking about the H word, right? But it's not one of those 4-letter word categories. It gets to be fun. Like I feel like we're on a fun trilogy. These next few episodes is how are we going to create required things like work and processes and habits, and how can we make them fun that they actually are fulfilling and they light our soul up. So that's what we're going to be talking about and diving into today, sharing with you some of our habits that we've created. And I want to just kind of rip the Band-Aid off here and make sure that everyone owns the permission of someone else's routine, someone else's habit, the way that someone else lives their life. Like it does not have to be yours. I had a friend share on a post the other day, like I'm tired of the us versus them, like the 5 a.m. Like you suck if you're not part of the 5 a.m. club. You're not doing it right if you're not hustling in business and working 80 hours a week. Like it's not about the us versus them or the camps that we define ourselves in and things like that. Habits, especially the way that we're going to be sharing with you today, my criteria is it needs to be something that's important to you. It needs to be something that fulfills your soul. Like you get to be top priority here with the healthy habits that you create to reinforce and give you the energy to work the way that you want to work, to serve the way that you want to serve in your family and your business and in community, like whatever it is. I believe habits need to be put in place to support the best versions of ourselves. And that, and only that, is the thing that we should be striving for.
well, I love how you open that. I'm a suck and I'm doing it wrong. So, and I think, establishing your own personal habits, I'm going to say it, Cassie Brown, it is a process. And for me, several years ago, it really, I recognized habits through time audits. And I recognized those habits by putting everything down that I was doing during my day. And then I started grouping or collecting things that I just was doing without even thinking about them. And then I use the power, and I know, as soon as I say this, people are going to be like, yeah, I've done that. How many times have you written something down that you've already done just so you could just check it off?
I'm raising both hands.
We do that. And so part of establishing a habit is, yes, on your own terms. It is not the morning routine of 7-figure entrepreneurs, or what is Cassie Brown's morning routine, because that's the routine that I want to do that makes me successful. You have everything that you need to be successful within yourself. Let's capture that. Let's document that. And that is the habit that will, what I call that productivity pop, will then just be a cascade event for, or trigger for the cascade of events that will follow. And so I think that by recognizing those things that we're already doing, those are your habits. And if we add to those habits something new, then we're setting ourselves up for success.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm not saying I didn't open it up that way to give everyone a soft marshmallow kind of gooey way out. Like habits are one of those things that challenge us and then push us to growth. And if it's okay, Rhonda, I'll just jump in and share. Like one of the things I had been wanting to do for a really, really, really long time, but my internal story was, this is going to be hard. It's going to be a lot of effort. I don't even know if I want to share it or say it, because I don't believe that I can achieve it. Right. And that's a really scary place to be. And so one of my goals is I wanted to lose 30 pounds. And I joke with my husband, we've got 4 kids. I've got 10 extra pounds for each pregnancy. And over the years, I have been able to lose, that little wiggle room, but I've got 3 kids still hanging on to me. And that was one of the things that I decided over the holidays, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I started paying attention. I wasn't super serious, right? So I didn't put measurements and metrics in place to really support this becoming a healthy habit, but it was in my mind and I had made the decision. And then one of these brave mornings or whatever, I finally was like, enough's enough, Cassie. This is complete BS. You said you wanted to do something. It's completely possible. You see other people doing it all the time. I've got friends who have lost 40 pounds, 50 pounds, 80 pounds. And so like, I know the reality of it. And I was completely my own worst enemy. So, a few days after the new year, I called Rhonda up. I'm like, I just joined a gym. I decided to go swimming every day. And I decided to go swimming every day in a matter of, so here is how I made that decision. I bought the new Brene Brown book for myself for Christmas and wrapped it up and put it under the tree. Yep. I'm that kind of person because I've just given Adam a free pass. I'm like, hey, I'd like this book for Christmas. I'll wrap it up so I have something to unwrap. But it's Atlas of the Heart. And in the introduction, she was talking about how swimming was stress relief and meditation for her. And I was like, yeah, me too. And I used to swim like with kid number 2, right? Going to the YMCA, checking them into the kids club and things like that. I got an hour. And I didn't do that anymore. And so it triggered like a series of like, why don't I do that anymore? And then it was like a decision, I'm going to do it. And the next day I went and I joined the gym. So I wanted to make sure I was creating a positive, healthy habit of swimming. And I'll share as we get into it, because I want to pass it over to Rhonda. This has been a bit of a monologue. But there were things that I put into place immediately that removed the backdoor exit for myself. And one of those things was calling Rhonda and let her know what I was going to do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how, like with baby number 2, like, why did that stop? I think for me, I am the baby weight. We're a club. There are 2 of us now. We're in a club, right? I too am carrying around, I think, like 10 pounds for each child. Jack is 15. So, there was some opportunity. And in that opportunity, I think that I started different routines, whether that was CrossFit, which was insanity for me, whether that was swimming. I did swimming. I enjoyed, that's another club that we're in because I was a swimmer. I was a swimmer in high school just a few years ago. I don't even know how that happens with 4 kids and Jack is 15. I mean, let's do the math, right? I homeschool. So,
I'm dying. I'm glad I was muted because like I spit some of my drink out.
But through the ebbs and the flows and life events, like, why do we stop doing these things? And it's interesting. I think we're on kind of that same cycle, Cassie, because it was right before Thanksgiving, and maybe it's because we have time. I took the week of Thanksgiving off. Daniel had just returned back from being deployed for a year. All of the children were going to be home. And I had worked really, really hard to be off that week. And to be off meant, and the weather was beautiful. And I had an inspiration from one of my members that she had completed a really difficult task, like a physical task. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. Now, there have been some challenges for me in implementing this new habit that we can get into, and I don't want to say, I don't know. I've read a couple of posts recently, and I think they've triggered me a little bit. I don't want to say that I haven't put myself first, and that's kind of like the things that have happened. I think as moms, as business owners, as partners, as wives, we put things before ourselves. And I guess kudos to you if you always put yourself first. That in and of itself is a habit to establish that I guess I'm just coming around full circle to saying, this is what's important to me. Not necessarily, and maybe that's in my own mind, allowing myself that grace to say, you are important, Rhonda. And what is the old adage? Like, if mama ain't happy, no one's happy. If mama can't move, nobody else is moving. That, I think that's like advanced maternal age. That's what I'm saying to myself. But it's interesting that we both at around the same time started to establish the habit of, we call it exercise, movement, health, being more health conscious.
Yeah, 100%. And so like in planning out this episode, we were talking about just sharing the power of decision, right? Deciding on where you're going, what you're going to create, where you're going to move. And we both gave examples of health. But another example is, we both talked about, I want to work 3 days, and that went into effect immediately. So I think it's the decision and immediate action to fulfill and set yourself up for success. It's not going to be, perfect. I love the imperfect action. I even have a fun acronym, MAFIA, messy and frequent imperfect action, messy AF, imperfect action, for those of you with some colorful language, but just deciding to do it and doing your best to put that into practice. Because I think a lot of the time is we let too much time settle, right? Where we make a decision and it'll be like for working, I'll start on a Monday, right? Why does it have to start on a Monday? Why do we have to start January 1st? Like now it's January 27th. I'm 22 days in of deciding, and I'm 10 pounds down. And I just shared that with Rhonda, and I'm like, I am so ecstatic. I freaking ate sushi last night because it was Sushi Wednesday with Farah. And my dad had this great idea for my birthday week to take her to a sushi buffet so she could explore and have a sushi adventure. And I knew what that meant because I freaking love sushi. And I'm like, today is ruined. But I woke up and I lost a pound. Like, how does that happen? And it's deciding and taking action and anchoring it to a routine, right? So we anchored it to a routine to hold us accountable.
Okay, so I want to drill down a little bit on this. So we set the intention, and we've set that several times throughout our lives of, I want to be more healthy, right? So we start. And then now we're seeing the result, which you let the total, like, we didn't even like have the drum roll, like the build up.
I'm sorry. I was so excited.
I know. But here's the thing that I want us to really, maybe we focus on this part of it in this episode, is that we saw the beginning and we saw the results. I want to drill down on what the in-between looks like, where there are challenges, where things happen that would take us off course. Yes, we've got some accountability tools in place. For you, it's, what is your accountability tool that you're using right now to implement every day?
Yeah. So for me, I immediately went into research and figuring out what app I was going to track my daily calories, because I knew swimming wasn't going to do it alone. I needed to be very conscious of the decisions that I was making. So what do you do? What do you do when you need to research an app and make a decision? You ask your friends on Facebook. So I made a post on Facebook and I got all of these replies, and there was pretty much 2 apps. It was MyFitnessPal and Lose It. And I downloaded MyFitnessPal first because so many people were saying it, but it's $80 a year. And I texted my friend, I'm like, you pay $80 a year to track your calories? And they were like, no, I just use the free version. Well, apparently I have a little bit of OCD, like movement on screens, and there was just ads popping up everywhere. And I'm like, I can't use the free version. That I can't do this. Like this is making me crazy. So I went back to Lose It, that I had used before, and it was pretty decent for the free version. But then this was an empowering decision. Then they offered for me to upgrade for the whole year for $20. So in my mind, my Fitness Pro anchored me at 80. Here's Lose It coming in at like, hey, $2 a month. What do you think about that? Yeah. And I was like, sold. So every day I track my meals, I track my exercise, and it is so satisfying to see the progress. And then every few days I'll do a weight. Well, well, I do weigh myself every single day, but I don't log, I log the losses in, my, no, not my fitness pro, get it right, Cass, in the Lose It app. And so that's my daily accountability.
Thinking back to when I started, which I am the OCD starting on the 1st, I think that I actually started my movement campaign, I think it was a Tuesday. And my accountability, so I use Peloton and I use the Peloton app. My accountability, I have two. One is the blue dot that I get every single day when I accomplish a task. And then the other is because my sister got me into doing hardcore on the floor, which is part of, well, it's not part of, it's a supplemental program
It's an
to
underground community of Peloton enthusiasts.
over like 300,000 people in a private Facebook community. It's insanity.
It is insane.
But one of the things that, okay, so that like opens up a whole thing, but we have a text, my sister and my husband. So when we complete hardcore on the floor, then we post in there as well. But I guess joining that community, one of the things, and people, I have not been this vulnerable yet to do like before and after pictures, but I see them now that I'm in that community. I see them pop up where people are sharing like what their journey is, whether it's a month, whether it's a year, whatever that is. And it just, I think the images that we've seen of our bodies and the way our bodies should look and the reality of the way that they look after 4 children, after 4 C-sections is very different. And in our mind, subconsciously, what are we comparing ourselves to? And why are we not in love with our own bodies and what our bodies have been able to do? I didn't think that I would have children. And the fact that my body looks the way that it looks now is amazing. And I need to love that and I need to honor that. And so for me, the accountability is the blue dot and mentioning every time when we're finished with an exercise, mentioning that in the text thread. But here's something that I wanted to bring up because Daniel and I, we were having a conversation while we were walking so I could get the blue dot. What if, so I did like 30 days or 31 days in a row, I got 31 blue dots in December. And so the OCD in me said, what if I don't do it? What if something happens? Because that's typically an event or something will happen and break that habit. So how do you feel about that, Cassie?
Oh, this is an excellent topic of discussion because I went to swim yesterday a little later than normal and the pool was full and there was someone in front of me and I didn't have the wiggle room of time to wait 30 minutes for a lane to open up because I was picking Farah up from the bus. So I just got in the hot tub and I just kicked my little feet. I didn't log exercise yesterday, but like you said, I moved. And so like, I guess I did glorified water aerobics in, in the hot tub, but it was a shift. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that I think is where people put so much pressure on themselves to be perfect, that's why grace exists. Does that mean I'm not going to the pool today? Heck no. I just made a mental note in my little process to set me up for success that I'm going to get there earlier today.
Yeah, it's funny because Cassie and I talk a lot and we will be on the phone or if we're on the computer, I'll look and I'll say, Cassie, at such and such a time, do you need to go? I want to protect that time. I don't want our conversation to run into what I know is really important to Cassie. And it's interesting that you pivoted and I love you for pivoting and like fluttering your little legs in the hot tub. I started in December with Daniel doing hardcore on the floor, which y'all seriously, it is hardcore, right? And I started doing that in December and we were about 2 weeks in. And I'm not going to say that I'm like really overweight or that I am just like old and decrepit, but I started to hurt and I wasn't feeling good about the movement that was supposed to be like all good for me. Now I had a choice. I can't let go of the blue dot. So I'm not allowing myself grace there yet. but I had a choice. Either I stop and then I've derailed myself, or I find an alternative. And so for me, I pivoted and I did something different. So instead of doing the hardcore, I started walking. Cassie.
Her maniacal laugh, I will provide some context for, because when I went to visit her, she asked, Cassie, you want to go on a walk? And I was like, yes, I love walking. I'm originally from Florida. When we walk, it's flat. We're north of Atlanta now, so we do have a little bit of hills in our neighborhood. But I had to lovingly tell Rhonda, I will definitely ask more questions next time on what kind of walk this is and what is the specific terrain and elevation of the route.
So we went up the first hill, and Cassie, but I want you to just picture Cassie Brown. She had on her little hat, she had on her jacket, she was ready to go. And we were walking up that hill, and then she put her hands on her hips and she's like, wow, a little bit out of breath. She said, that was a hill. And I'm just sitting there, and I was like, yeah. And that's not even the biggest one. She never said anything after that, but I could only like hear like the words that were in her mind. And so I pivoted and I started walking. Cassie Brown will no longer walk with me, but that's okay. So I was walking, and, you know, even in the beginning of like pivoting, walking, like, you know, Cassie, like, full transparency here, you know, I was huffing and puffing up that hill, and I would get mad. Like Daniel would be so far ahead of me, and I was like, how is he so far ahead of me? I'm going fast. You know? But then it got better as I continued. Now I'm going to tell you, I had to pivot again. Something else happened, and I pivoted again. I got back on the bike. And so it's interesting how trying to establish these habits for good of self-care, movement, exercise, whatever you want to talk, however you want to explain it, there have been things that have popped up that have made me pivot, but I still want to hold fast to that commitment of establishing the habit of doing something that is some kind of physical activity. Now, for me, Cassie, it's 7 days a week. What is it for you?
So it's 5 days a week for me, because Adam and I will run some errands on the weekends and things like that. So like, it's just, for me, it's during the week, and then whatever happens on the weekend, I look at as just a bonus. But I do want to provide a little bit of like, widen the perspective here. Like, it doesn't just have to be, you know, any sort of habit. I want to share too. I wanted to create more time with my dad after he moved in with us. And so I was very intentional about spending an hour and having coffee with my dad and Adam by the fire every morning. So that became a routine and a daily morning habit. And Rhonda, she's like, did you have your coffee this morning? It's like, absolutely. And it was amazing. And I tease Adam all the time. I'm like, I'm getting my coffee and I'm just going to stare at you, because there's nothing else planned. There's nothing else that has to be done, and except us be together. We have conversation, we plan meals and all of this type of stuff. Another intention that I wanted to have, that I wanted the kids to see me read more, not just articles on a tablet or my phone or anything like that. And I listened to a lot of audiobooks, but it meant me getting uncomfortable and sitting down with a physical book so that they could see. And the more I did this, the more interested. Noah went through 3 books on Christmas break. He found one and he just absolutely devoured. And these were like 500, 600, 800 page books. Like, he read me under the table. I started taking Farah to the library and letting her explore and pick out chapter books. And she read one of the ones that she picked out in a couple of weeks and needed to go back before the library books were even due. So there can be different habits and daily routines and just things that you want to take a priority in your life. And it's just deciding how you're going to incorporate it. And I am so, like, my heart is full when we sit down and we read, and we'll snuggle and just both with our books. And for me, what that means in creating that opportunity for the kids to create that habit and that love for reading. And it's such a strong ripple effect. You don't even realize the power of what you're doing.
So I will share now a couple of habits and or routines, we'll say. So one of them is part of my morning routine, and it's one of the things that I enjoy doing. And it's funny, I think people at Daniel's work are like, what are you having for lunch today? I make Daniel's lunch.
I freaking love this about you, Rhonda, because I love it when you were share your morning routine and the coaching group and everything like that. And it's like, I do this, and I make Daniel's lunch. And I just freaking love it so much.
Well, it's fun to do, but then it was sad when he wasn't here. So that I have a list, and I had to remove it from the list because it actually made me sad that he wasn't here and I couldn't make his lunch. But I just want to say, like, you're like, you make your husband's lunch. That may feel like a task to people, but I make his lunch. Like, that's one of the things that he's committed to doing, is to eating healthier. It's so funny. He talks about eating healthy, and then like he'll eat some ice cream, but eating healthier. But part of that too is our love language of, I write him little love notes on paper towels that I put inside of his lunch. And I will tell you, we don't like do big grand gifts, but one of our anniversary gifts when he was away, he takes pictures of the notes and sends them to me. And so I took that collection of pictures and I put it in a chat book. And while we were away from each other, I sent him that book for our anniversary because we couldn't spend it together. So I want you to see how those habits have a ripple effect again, in that way. But then the other thing is, I am planning for a habit. And the habit that I am planning for, and being very intentional. So now we're working a 3-day work week, right, Cassie Brown? And I have boundaries, like really, they're becoming more like fixed boundaries, that I don't work on Mondays and I don't work on Fridays. Part of when the weather turns warm is it's Mama's kayaks. And this weekend, tomorrow, actually, I am driving to Charleston and we are buying a kayak trailer. This kayak trailer will hold 6 kayaks. And part of my reward for things that I do is I am going to outfit my family with kayaks. And I've already told the kids, Fridays, Mama is going kayaking. Saturdays, I am going kayaking. And here's the thing. It's Daniel and I had this conversation while walking together. Oh my gosh, we're tying this thing up with a beautiful bow.
Yes.
We live in an area where there are just so many like waterfalls and places to hike and places to kayak and explore. And Daniel's like, I really think that we've done our kids a disservice that we haven't done more of that. And I was like, Daniel, how can we reframe that? And it's really, we are the example, and we can instill in them a love for doing those things, just like we were talking about with the kids and reading. I love that, Cassie. So for us, and even now, like our boys are really getting into fishing. Like Anders doing fly fishing. Now Jack is starting fly fishing with Daniel. So in doing these things, i.e. Mama's kayaks, we are instilling that love for the outdoors, being physical and enjoying like no screen time, right? But that is, we have to, we are the example. You have to be the example if you want others to follow, right? And so that is a habit that I am planning for. I am getting my gear right now. We don't even own a kayak yet, and I'm buying a trailer, but I know that I want a 6-man kayak trailer, and we're buying that. And I found it on Facebook Marketplace.
You manifested that.
I did. And I saw it originally on Facebook, and I should have bought like the first time I saw it, because then I couldn't find them. And then I found one, and I was just kind of wheeling and dealing a little bit. We went and looked at it, and yeah, so I'm buying it tomorrow. I'm so excited. It's the beginning of a new habit, which I can't wait to explore that with my kids this summer.
I am so excited about that. And I love everything that you just shared, but I'm going to unpack this a little bit, and I'm going to tie this with the thing about habits is we've talked about accountability. We've talked about measurements, right? That in between, how are you going to set yourself up for success? Now I want to talk about rewards for the habit, right? So we decided we wanted to work 3 days a week. So, but what was happening, right? Like some things were creeping in on Fridays and things like that. So now there's anchored in a reward with another habit, right? So we've created, like, we've habit stacked for the kayaks on Friday to hold you accountable, not only to the 3-day work week, but it's a reward. Like, that's an incredible reward to spill over to the family, and to feel like, to, when we talk about fueling your soul, to go kayaking on Friday. And so, like, what I do when I go swimming, my reward is my time in the sauna, and I get a hydro massage every time that I go. Right. But if I don't do one, completing the swimming triggers the reward, right? The reward is also healing and helping with my habit and to my body. But it's like the dessert with the cherry on top at the end of the day. It's the buffet sushi and still losing a pound. I mean, that is what I'm talking about, rewards.
And I think it's interesting because all of these, if we look back, that idea of exercising happened. It didn't just happen overnight. I think sometimes we can like get ourselves down until we hit rock bottom. And I call it putting my big girl pants on. I'm not going to sit and waller in it. I'm going to like get up and keep moving. But even this idea for kayaking, I've talked about, and it's interesting, like that whole conversation. What are you doing for yourself? And I was working too much. I was doing stuff for the kids. Daniel was gone, like thinking about all of those things. And I'm like, I don't even know where kayaking came from. And I said, I'm going to kayak. And we did it. But we did it on Mother's Day. Isn't that interesting? It was like a day, and you do something special on Mother's Day. What is it that we're going to do? Well, I said that we're going to go kayaking. So the kids and Maggie actually figured out where we could rent them and where we were going to go close to home. And that was our first experience, and everybody loved it. So it's not been quite a year, and I've went to Sunrift. I have looked at the kayaks, and now just taking that a step further, right? Intention 3 days a week. Now I told Daniel last night as we were sitting down, I said, I pulled a Daniel today. I call him Daniel. I don't call him Daniel. That's a whole nother story. But I said, I pulled a Daniel, and he's like, what are you talking about? I said, I YouTubed it. So now it is a hobby that I want to make a habit. And now I'm doing research. And where do we go? We go to YouTube to figure that out on the best beginner kayaks and things that I need to be looking for, because they can range in price. What am I looking for? Right. And so it's interesting how the evolution of a habit and or hobby starts. It doesn't happen overnight. And so I'm glad that we kind of looked at how we start, the reward, but what it looks like in the middle of the Oreo. Can I use Oreo? Can we?
I actually like freaking love Oreos.
Let's do double stuff and put them in the fridge. I'm just saying. So, but the gooey in the middle, like the hard part where we need to pivot, allowing yourself to do that. I have not allowed myself not to have a blue dot. So I need to get past that, and I'll work through that. But I just want people to start to explore what habits that they want to establish.
Yeah, I love that. And so we're coming up at the end of this episode. So I want to encourage you to reflect on your habits. Like, are you stuck in your head like I was? You shared Jack's 15, Fair is 7, right? So I've had this goal essentially. I'll even give myself the first year, right? Because it's hard to bounce back, right? There's some amazing women who bounce back, and it just blows my mind. I think they're incredible. Mm-hmm. So like, I've had 6 years to decide to be able to do this. And I was just talking all of this nastiness to myself on how it's so unrealistic. Don't even try. right? Like we wouldn't tell our, I mean, really, like the people that we would like the least in the world, I don't know whether we'd even talk to them like that.
No.
So I want to challenge you today to really like take inventory on the conversations that you're having in yourself and what you really want to create in your life and your business. Like, what is the one thing? What is the one thing? And I feel like when I asked my question, when I asked myself that question, what is the one thing? Like sticky note secrets, like a whole litany of things came up, right? I want to set a better example with reading. I want to spend time with my Adam, with Adam and my dad. I want to get healthy. I want to make better choices. And like, so it was pretty aggressive, but I folded them all in kind of one by one by one, but I also wasn't allowing myself to be like, I'm not going to do it because Rhonda and I both have the experience. We're not promised tomorrow. We're not promised this afternoon, right? Our time is precious. Our energy is precious. The way that we spend our time and our talents and our attention, it is so immensely valuable that there is no argument on why you should not be happy and satisfied and fulfilled like right now in your being, in your soul. And that all comes down to the decisions that we're making and the actions that we're taking. So with habits, decide, right? Take an inventory and decide. And then you talk to someone that you love who can help hold you accountable and that will celebrate with you, right? And then you pick something to measure, pick your metrics. You know, are they weekly? Are they daily? Are they monthly? Are they hourly? Right? There's mindset things where I check in with myself. And if I'm feeling frustrated or whatever, like that's not how I want to be. Right. So it could be 15 minutes, check into yourself. How are you feeling? What are you thinking? Like, I want to be present. I want to be grateful. I want to be encouraging. Right. And if you're not in that state and you want to be, once you're aware of it, you're choosing it. Right. So shift and choose, take that action, and then pair it with rewards and celebrate the heck out of every freaking little thing. Right. I shared that I'm already a third of my way in with my goal. I took McKaylee shopping the other day and I saw my favorite brand of jeans in the junior section. And I'm like, hey, those are my jeans. I bought them and they fit. I didn't even tell you that, Rhonda.
No, this is you. I'm so proud of you. That's perfect.
Yeah. So, I mean, like reward yourself and celebrate those things. Right. And then above all and else, like use the filter of grace and pivot and like keep up the consistent action that's going to pull you towards your goal. And when you get there, share it with others, because Lord knows we need more encouragement and beacons of light in this world.
I love it. From a favorite pair of blue jeans to a kayak trailer. It does not get any
It's a country song if I ever heard one.
Yes. I think it's a country song like backwards.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Any final thoughts?
No,
I love you too.
I love you. I love this journey with you, and we are experiencing so many things like in parallel. You're in Atlanta and I'm in South Carolina or Greenville, and I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Oh my gosh. So for you who are listening, if you're following along on YouTube or the podcast, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And, as much joy as Rhonda and I get out of spending time together, it fills our souls, honestly, to know that just one person may be out there listening to this, and it'll cause a shift and opportunity in what they're creating in their lives and their business. So thank you for spending time with us, and we will see you on the next episode.
Take care.
Bye.